Rarity, I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. Mare seems to have recovered from the worst of it, but just in case, I'm leaving all my notes and plans with you.
What?
I don't know how long I'm going to be gone. Could be hours, could be days. If anything disruptive happens, I need the most organized pony I know besides me. Spike is staying here with you, and you know he'll be more than willing to help you with anything you need. Now, there's a couple spell scrolls in there, enchanted so that only adult unicorns can use them, so don't worry about Sweetie Belle getting her hooves on them. Hopefully I'll be back before...
Twilight! How can you drop this on me? And I'd appreciate some details on this mission, or whatever it is that you're up to.
I told you before. I'm just going to help someone Discord hurt badly. You're my only hope.
And you expect me to hold on to your things while you're gone and carry out any duty of yours related to magic out of the goodness of my heart?
Yes, element of generosity.
Blast you, Twilight Sparkle.
Look, it's all just in case. If anything major turns up, just have Spike Dragon mail me.
All right, but I'll have you know that you're not the only one who's taken on extra responsibilities for the sake of others right now.
I'm very sorry, Rarity, but I'm pulled in a lot of directions as it is. I promise I'll be back as soon as I can. We nuzzled each other, and I raced home to pack a few essentials. I wish I had been to Hoofington before. Then, with some intense effort on my part, I could have just teleported there. But with nothing to directly visualize except a few maps, it wasn't worth the risk of teleporting inside the wall of a newly built gift shop. Normally, there were safety measures built in to prevent that sort of disaster, but the greater the distance, the greater the likelihood for error, especially if you weren't prepared. Princess Celestia had sent news to Hoofington ahead of time that I would be coming eventually to see my patient around a month ago. Yes, I have been feeling overworked. What precisely was your first clue? As it was, Celestia was willing to provide me some extra fast Royal Pegasi transport, so at least the trip there would be less time-consuming than the trip back via teleportation, which I figured I could pull off.
Are you secure, Lady Sparkle?
One said once we were in the air. I checked myself over, taking care to utilize the newfangled seat belts. Yes, I am.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Then hold on, please.
These weren't the normal Pegasi troopers who carted very important ponies to and from Canterlot. These boys were born and bred to move like lightning. The wind pressed my lips and eyelids open. I shed tears from the gale force and wondered whose bright idea it was to not build a windscreen in this thing. These boys could have made the Wonderbolts if they wanted. Instead, they had opted to try and give nice lavender unicorns heart attacks. I couldn't really enjoy the picturesque landscape below, or the scenic mountain range in the distance. For the first few minutes, I was too busy screaming my lungs out. My caring and considerate transport were perfectly happy to ignore me completely. Finally, I calmed down enough to simply hang on for dear life, secured as I was. I swear on Princess Celestia's cutie mark, I did not cry out for mommy. I will not bore you with further details of being propelled through the air at near sonic rainboom speeds. I shall instead inform you that my transport was kind enough to slow down gradually when we approached our destination, so I wouldn't go splat against the front of the golden chariot. Realistically, I supposed I should have been very grateful that my ride was fast as it was. At the time, I was more grateful I had forgotten to pack any unsecured non-gravity immune books with me as I normally would have brought for such a long trip through the air.
We're the princesses! We're very best friend.
For a second, I thought we had flown in a big loop. I found myself standing in a relatively small town. I needed a few moments to realize these weren't the streets and buildings and inhabitants of Ponyville. It's almost eerie just how alike Hoofington is to Ponyville. In the distance, a fairly impressive magic school overshadowed the town. I'd arrived in the dead of night. Later, I'd learned that while, like Ponyville, Hoofington had been founded by Earth ponies, unicorn settlers and immigrants had long since supplanted the original population into a minority. It was rather strange seeing so many unicorns among architecture done mostly in Earth pony style. Princess Celestia had provided an address, and who it was I should expect. I wondered to myself, was this really where she had come from? The Pegasi were quick to depart, leaving Princess Celestia's personal envoy and apprentice in the middle of a little nowhere town. Thankfully, Hoofington shared another fine trait of Ponyville's. The locals were overwhelmingly welcoming and friendly, apparently having more of a nightlife than Ponyville. I wish I could claim that I was assaulted by a second conga line of ultra-friendly ponies whose personality profiles meshed perfectly with the elements of harmony, but I would be lying. Truth be told, I've sometimes speculated whether Princess Celestia had pre-arranged for my element-holding friends to be assigned their respective positions in Ponyville. Well ahead of that fateful day, she ordered me to make some friends. It was hardly beyond her to comb through the psychological profiles of every pony in Equestria, then pull the necessary strings for the chosen few to wind up in Ponyville. On one hoof, Applejack's family had lived in Ponyville for generations. However, both Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash had moved from Cloudsdale. Pinkie Pie came from wherever they farm rocks, and Rarity? Well, Rarity sometimes struck me as remarkably out of place among the rest of Ponyville's provincial locals. If my theory was correct, I hardly knew whether to feel awed or played as a chess piece. Still, the princess had never had anything but Equestria's, and more importantly its ponies', best interests at heart. Eventually, I concluded if this had all been orchestrated, I should just be impressed what 1,000 years of planning and preparation could. Was it 1,000 years? Decades, maybe? Had Celestia intended on selecting me as her student well in advance? Predicted my birth? Groomed me throughout the course of my youth to serve as the cure to Nightmare Moon? I almost stopped dead in my tracks from a momentary existential crisis. Many troubling questions regarding fate and free will flitted through my mind. I really wished Spike was there to dish out some droll bit of snark that would put my hooves back on Earth. In a flash of paranoia, I wondered if she'd bred bloodlines for the express purpose of creating ponies who'd perfectly align with the elements. Before I stopped, and reminded myself that the Princess Celestia I knew could never be such a manipulative puppet master, even for the good of all Equestria. I breathed in deep. This was absurd. I had to focus before I accidentally drove myself crazy. No matter what games the princess played, I knew her love for me and those under her care wasn't a performance, and that was enough. Following some very kind directions from a random unicorn, I arrived at a rather mundane house. Not run down by any stretch of the imagination, nor was it in any kind of disrepair, but it just seemed so regrettably normal. The kind of house you'd glance at in passing and never think about again. Just a single-story home with front and backyard. Unremarkable in all respects. I really didn't like the idea of showing up this late at night, or was that early in the morning? But I really didn't want to go to the trouble of finding a room to rent. Not to mention my guilt at making them wait as long as this. Was their condition still curable at this point? I bit the crossbow bolt and telekinetically knocked on the door. Soon enough, I saw a soft blue glow approaching through the front door's window.
Who is it?
Asked a strangely familiar female voice behind the door. I'm from Ponyville. I was sent to look at a pony who was tainted by discord. I'm very, very, very sorry for taking so long, and I can understand if you hate me, but please, at least let me try to set things right. I really want to help her, I really do, but there were just so many in Ponyville who needed help too, and...
Are you Twilight Sparkle?
Yes, I'm Twilight Sparkle. Is Trixie here?
Yes, she is.
The door opened and I was greeted on the other side by a light blue unicorn with a silver mane and kind violet eyes. Trixie? The unicorn shook her head gently and apologetically and showed me her flank, which showed a pair of fairy wings connected to a book.
Oh no, I'm Nixie. I'm her sister.
Trixie? I didn't know she had a twin.
Oh, none of us are twins. We all just happen to look more alike than most siblings do. Puck and Robin don't look nearly as much alike as we do.
Puck and who?
Oh, I'm sorry. Puck and Robin are my brothers. They don't live in Hoofington anymore and aren't here right now, though they did ask us to keep them informed.
Who is us?
Well, you're here, and we're all here. So I guess now's as good a time for introductions as any.
I opened my mouth to question that logic as Nixie floated a copper pot and ladle towards herself and banged them together repeatedly.
Every pony, wake up! The doctor from Canterlot is finally here! Front and center, let's do this!
The ruckus of ponies falling or jumping out of bed assaulted my ears. Before the ringing in my ears could die away, I found myself staring in astonishment. 3 other ponies galloped into the room, a couple trying to shake off sleep while simultaneously trying to perform some simple cartwheels or somersaults before lining up alongside Nixie. I couldn't take my eyes off them. I was in a room with 4 Trixies. Okay, I had only had this nightmare once or twice before.
Sound off!
Presenting Nixie, the eldest.
Her cutie mark was a pale moon with the outline of a witch flying against it.
Pixie, the second eldest.
A black and white pan flute.
Nixie, the second youngest.
And Lexi, the youngest.
Half a tragedy and half a comedy mask.
The Midsummer Night Sisters.
I began to suspect I wasn't dreaming after all, as the 3 other ponies huffed and slowly broke out of their poses.
I still think the name is corny.
The name's fine. It's the poses that are corny.
Looking at 4 Trixies chatting among themselves was threatening to shut my brain down, but I managed to keep going.
So you're Dr. Sparkle?
Asked Mixie, trotting up to me. It's just Twilight Sparkle, actually. I'm not a doctor.
Then why are you here? Nixie just said you were the doctor from Canterlot to help Trixie.
I am from Canterlot, and I am here to help Trixie. A doctor can't cure what she has, so that's why I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I've done this multiple times before without trouble.
I don't know. I'm starting to like her the way she is. She doesn't try to weasel out of anything we want to do together with her. She's just a great listener now. And...
Lexi! That's not funny.
only joking.
Seriously, you can cure her, right?
I'm absolute sure I can. But I'm sad to say I wasn't given many details. What is she like now?
She's like a doll.
She likes dressing up and hosting tea parties?
No, I mean like a doll. She barely responds to anything. Pixie has to keep an eye on her and make sure she feeds herself. And when we can get her to respond to anything, she goes through the motions like a robot. We're just lucky she can still go to the little Philly's room by herself. Talking to her is like talking to a rock that just so happens to be shaped like my little sister.
Little sister?
Trixie is right in the middle, the 3rd eldest sister.
And the 3rd youngest as well.
I think I was beginning to understand something, but I wasn't sure what. The sleepless overnight flight from Ponyville was beginning to take its toll as I spouted out the obvious. You all sure look alike.
Thanks. When we go outside, we actually like to hide our cutie marks. It's Lexi's idea of a joke. And the locals have turned it into a game, trying to guess who's who when they see us. Trixie never really took part.
Unless I blackmailed her.
Or I guilt-tripped her.
Or I bribed her.
Or I just asked her really, really nicely.
Point is, she really wasn't a team player. But I'd still rather have her than what she is now.
I'll get on it as soon as I...
Maybe you should get some sleep first. I don't think Trixie is going to be any worse tomorrow morning.
I'm fine.
Seriously, we'd rather have you perform the spell or whatever you need to do when you're fully rested. Can't risk you accidentally turning my little sister into a potted plant.
Oh, don't be silly. The only ponies I've ever turned into potted plants were my parents. And they so totally went back to normal afterwards. I think my being the goddess's chosen one offset any chance of a pathological fear of their own child from forming. Which is really cool, because though I think of her mom just like a second mother, I still love my parents and my real mom too. I know I don't talk to them much, but hey, as a filly becomes a mare, she's expected to strike out on her own, right?
Right, so you're sleeping on your hooves now. Got it. Lexi, go get a blanket from the cupboard.
All right.
Trixie with Flying Book Cutie Mark led me to a nice comfy couch. I mean, can you believe some earth ponies? I know their magic isn't as visible as ours or flying ponies, but just because we don't use our hooves all the time doesn't mean magic isn't straining hard work just like plowing a field is, dang it! You know what I mean?
Right.
Said Trixie with Flying Book Cutie Mark as I fell into the surprisingly comfy couch and closed my eyes. Maybe I should rest for just a tiny bit after the party marathon with Pinkie, organizing the psychologist appointments for nearly all of Ponyville, casting that wing spell again, and traveling far across the sky. I don't know why, but my dreams felt incomplete that night. Like they were just words floating in a black misty sea of confusion. Stunted, uninspired, not wanting to develop into a coherent storyline. And I was swimming in the mess of it. Was I really so tired I couldn't even dream properly? I remember dreaming I was a filly again, listening to one of Celestia's one-on-one lessons. Except I wasn't alone in this broken half-dream. There was another Trixie sitting next to me, but with a cutie mark that was a color-inverted version of mine. I know dreams are supposedly often a reflection of one's subconscious, but if this dream held any meaning, it was lost on me. Why couldn't it have been that dream with that colt I dated exactly 2 times when I entered the flux between filly to marehood? When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already high in the sky, and I saw the youngest of Trixie's sisters, the one with the masked cutie mark. What was her name again? Flexi... Bexley? Ugh. Who invented specialized nonsense syllables for personal names anyway? The vast majority of ponies were perfectly happy with compound nouns for names. Right. Celestia wasn't exactly a common noun. Right. I am Beat Dumb Unicorn! I'll change the subject now. Good morning. You're... Laxi?
Good morning. My name is Lexi.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Normally I absorb details like a wet sponge. I didn't think I was that tired last night.
Did you know you spout magical formulas in your sleep?
I'm pretty sure it's impossible for me to be that tired.
Believe what you want to believe.
So, thank you for letting me sleep in your house last night. It was very generous of you, considering how long I've let your sister suffer.
Actually, I wanted to wake you up with an exploding paper bag. And Pixie wanted to blast some nice heavy metal music in your ears. But Nixie convinced us to let you sleep in.
I'll be sure to tell her thank you.
She's in the kitchen if you want. It's about time to feed Trixie anyways.
Lexi had spoken with the same nonchalance one would speak of feeding a pet. The pony's body language showed not callousness, but numbness.
It's my turn to fetch her. Hold on.
I watched curiously as Lexi trotted down a short hallway and pushed inside a door. I couldn't help myself and followed her. It was a room with 3 bunk beds and 1 single, but I didn't have time to take in any other real details as my attention zeroed on the unicorn Lexi was pulling out of the single bed. Of all the unicorns I had seen in this house so far, this one looked and acted the least like Trixie. The fact she wasn't wearing Trixie's hat and cape had nothing to do with it. As Lexi pulled her out of bed, I saw, indeed, Trixie's cutie mark on this mare's flanks, but that just made it more jarring. The pony was not making eye contact with any pony. Her expression was a broken melancholy that never wavered. Then I saw how the pony moved. I remembered a mechanical pony I'd seen shown off by one of my classmates in Canterlot, with its herky-jerky movements, its stiff limbs, its lifeless expression, the way it moved on its own but with no soul. But that pony had been tin-plated, and I could easily see the gears between the joints. Here I saw coat and hide, breath being drawn in and out, and those exact same lifeless movements. I swallowed my gasp of shock and alarm and galloped straight back to the living room. Lexi must have heard me, but said nothing as she led Trixie into the living room. Trixie didn't even look my way, though there was no way she could have missed me.
Come on, Trixie. Nixie's waiting for us.
I tried my best not to be rude, and not to make it obvious I was trying to keep my distance. I followed them into a kitchen. Nixie had some places already set, and was just finishing drying a couple other plates.
Good morning, Trixie. And how are you this morning?
Trixie didn't respond.
Well, I'm sure you'll feel better after you have something in your stomach.
The breakfast was generic scrambled eggs all around. I didn't mind it. Instead of telekinesis, Trixie used her face like an earth pony. Her sisters didn't make any complaints about Trixie's apparent lack of unicorn table manners. Later on, I would learn they had tried exactly once to feed her manually, and her jaw had closed like a steel trap until they stopped. On another occasion, Lexi had apparently tried to close off Trixie's breathing passages to force her to open her mouth, but that hadn't ended well.
Trixie, this is Twilight Sparkle. She's the expert we told you about who's here to help you. Twilight Sparkle, this is my big sister Trixie.
Nice to meet you, Trixie. As they ate in silence, Nixie kept trying to coax some reaction from her sister. I didn't want to look at Trixie, but I couldn't pull my eyes away either. It was like looking at some grotesque puppet show. A pony's body was being moved along by invisible strings.
So, you come from Canterlot?
Technically, I came from Ponyville, but I grew up in Canterlot. I spent the last year in Ponyville for, personal studies. Admitting I was studying friendship was sure to make me blush.
Oh, I see. Say no more.
Nixie said with a wink and smile, which I had no clue what it was supposed to mean. Trixie, stand here, please, I instructed out of the blue, in a slightly forceful tone. Trixie complied with robotic obedience. Stay still. Trixie's muscles locked in place instantly. Nixie and Lexi just looked on, daring to hope. The memory spell conforms itself to each individual pony, making them relive the memories that truly mattered most to them, and the memories that had helped shape them into who they are. It had woken Applejack from her self-induced refusal to face reality. It had pulled Pinkie Pie up from the emotional pit Discord had tricked her into digging herself into. It had helped remind Rarity of what was actually important to her, and it had made Fluttershy remember why she cared for others. Though I admit something had felt very strange while I had cured her, but I couldn't put my hoof on it. And it had helped Rainbow Dash remember her friends mattered to her. Again, something felt weird when I touched her, but in a different way from Fluttershy. I touched my horn gently to Trixie's to get better magical conduction and let the spell flow from me into her. A thunderous roar erupted from the darkness, breaking the connection and physically knocking me onto the floor. I reactively felt my horn to make sure it was still in one piece from the backlash. It was. Of course, Trixie's sisters checked on her first before me. Trixie shuddered a few times, but otherwise was unchanged. Her proper colors hadn't returned.
What happened? Is she okay?
I tried to use the memory spell to cure her, but something came between us. No, not between. It was like something pushed me out.
Trixie, come on. This isn't funny. Don't you want to be better? You do, right? Yeah. I know you do. So just let the nice man help you. Please!
She might as well have asked the wall.
Fine! See if I care!
Lexi left the room at a gallop. Nixie looked like she wanted so badly to say something, anything, but couldn't find the words. Finally, she turned to me and Trixie.
Are you hurt? Is Trixie hurt?
I'm fine. Trixie is no worse than she was a minute ago.
I see.
I looked at Trixie. Whatever force had kicked me out before I'd even gotten a hoof in the front door was more than likely still waiting for me to try again. In other words, I needed a new spell. Things had gotten much more complicated. I knew the smart thing to do would be to simply hand Trixie over to the experts, professionals with magic experience that outweighed my own ability and power, doctors who knew how a pony's head worked better than any bookworm. That was the smart thing to do, the rational thing to do, and therefore the Twilight Sparkle thing to do. I think my best chance for helping Trixie is to take her back to my home in Ponyville.
You'll be able to help her?
I'm absolutely sure.
All right, then.
And with that, I had told my biggest, fattest lie since the Parasprite infestation, and made the most selfish, self-serving, self-centered, self-absorbed, self-important decision of my entire life. And I was honestly not sure why I had. I spent the rest of the day asking Nixie questions about Trixie. Nixie had Trixie make herself comfortable in the living room, where she sat in one of the chairs and stared out at nothing, like a Philly's doll.
Oh, Mom and Dad loved us all, and we did our very best to support each other as well.
What was she like back then?
Well, she always seemed frustrated over something or other. I'll admit, sometimes it was hard to tell what she was thinking. I swear to Celestia, I've never seen Trixie look so happy as when Dad said they now had the bits for her to attend the Magic Academy. Then she seemed upset when Mixie said Trixie would fit right in. Trixie wasn't doing badly in any of her classes. Mom said Trixie was upset she wasn't doing spectacular in any given subject. I think we all realized Trixie had problems when she tried to run away to join the circus. Mixie told her we were 5 parts of a whole and we should support each other. Trixie snarled that was the problem. Her teachers were all disappointed when she began to abandon her studies. They were all sad to see her go. Our parents were just shocked. She ended up giving her scholarship to Mixie. She became Whitebeard the Grey's apprentice. Of course, we were all overjoyed when Trixie got her cutie mark. I couldn't remember when I last saw her so happy. For the first time in so long, she wasn't sullen. She was producing illusions and pyrotechnics out the wazoo at her cute Siniera. She even got Pixie to think she was a baby dragon. I always thought we should join up into one big theater troupe, but Trixie kept saying she works best alone. We've never performed all together, and Trixie actually got upset when Mixie suggested Pixie and Lexi could learn a few tricks of Trixie's to spice up their performance. Then she just left town one day. She said her goodbyes and left. It was very sudden and strange, too. It wasn't like her act was growing stale or anything. She visits usually for the summer sun and winter night festivals, except for when she thinks she can make it big in one of the larger cities, and she shows up for the occasional birthday. The last time she visited out of season was when she made it for Master Whitebeard's funeral. She spent most of it hiding from the rest of us. She looked at Whitebeard just once and ran out of the room. All 4 of us actually visited Ponyville a while back. We had heard her sister was going to do one of her shows there, but we missed it entirely. Mixie was not happy. Hey, you said you spent all of last year in Ponyville. Did you see her show?
I did my best not to put on some forced fake grin. I only really caught the end of it. My friends didn't talk about it much, but they were really emotionally charged up about it afterwards. She left in the middle of the night that same evening, so I didn't have a chance to catch a full performance.
Too bad. Trixie really knows how to put on a show, and she's a great storyteller when she tries to be and puts more substance than glitter into her act.
I smiled and nodded. No way would I tell Nixie how her sister had crafted a fantasy, starring herself as the vanquisher of an Ursa Major, and had been spreading the lie from town to town to increase her popularity.
I'll never forget. The moment I saw how lifeless her eyes were, I knew something was wrong. We brought her back home to Hoofington right away. Then Discord came to town, and I'd rather not discuss any of what he did outside of family. Sorry.
I understand. Later, when 2 other ponies entered the house, Nixie called them over. One was a middle-aged black unicorn mare with wrinkles and a silver mane, who introduced herself as Morgan. The other was a dark blue earth pony with a lighter blue mane named Gorlois. Nixie introduced them as her and her sister's parents. I was surprised, but thought nothing of it. That theory of mixed couples creating magical inferior unicorns had been disproved for over 50 years, along with that pure species drivel. All of them kissed Trixie goodbye. Gorlois and Morgan kept looking me in the eyes, asking if I was sure I'd be able to help their child. Lexi was last. She had to be pushed to give Trixie a hug. She went through the motions but said,
If Trixie can't tell, then what's the point?
Twilight, you're back! I'm so happy, and what is she doing here?
I missed you too, Spike.
Twilight, why is Trixie here?
She's the patient I told you I was going to visit in Hoofington.
What? Why would Discord even bother with her?
I didn't know if it was a good sign or bad, but I swear I saw Trixie's head lower a fraction of an inch.
Seriously, Twilight, you said it was some victim of Discord's one-on-one mind games. I figured you were gonna go see Princess Luna or something, not her. She's gotta be faking it. No way and no how would Discord waste his time on someone like her. Even he wasn't that crazy.
Okay, that time I know I saw her head lower just a tiny bit. Spike, that's enough. You're not helping.
I'm trying to help you, Twilight. This is like when you told Pinkie that she was just jealous of Gilda. She's just bad news.
I said that's enough, Spike.
Twilight, don't tell me you're defending her.
I spoke with her parents and her sisters, and I've been observing her since this morning. There's no way this is one of Trixie's performances.
You don't suspect her family's in on the...
Spike?
Never mind.
I need you and Owl Wishes to both look after her with me.
What? You mean I play servant boy to... why hasn't she said anything yet?
I am fairly certain that just as Discord reversed the most outstanding personality traits of me and my fellow element holders, he reversed that of Trixie's. Namely, her confidence.
Fine. Just cast a memory spell so she remembers she's supposed to be acting like she's queen of the world and throw her out the door.
I tried that. It didn't work.
That's just proof it's all...
Spike, if you don't stop it, I'll throw you out of the front door.
Twilight, it's Trixie, remember? One of the bad guys?
Discord is one of the bad guys. Nightmare Moon was one of the bad guys. Trixie is a pony who needs help, and I'll do my best to give it, with or without you.
Twilight, you know I'm behind you 100% on anything, but I'm worried you're just helping someone who's just gonna hurt you for helping them.
That's a very real possibility if I can get Trixie back to herself.
Then why?
Short answer, no one I've met who breathes oxygen deserves what Discord does to his victims. And I won't make an exception just because it's someone who cared less about making friends than me. Long answer? There's a family who wants their sister back, their daughter back, and they can't do it on their own.
Then just get Princess Celestia to do it and we can get this over with. I'm sure she can fix the problem while having tea.
No.
What do you mean, no? You really think she'd turn you down?
It's not that, Spike.
Then what is it, dang it? Haven't we had enough complications around here already?
I know we have, Spike.
Then why add more to the bundle? Doesn't Ponyville have enough problems without you bringing in someone else's?
Because I already promised myself I was going to. And I promised Trixie's family. And Celestia's been busy healing everyone's scars in Canterlot. She trusted me to help those in Ponyville. And last I checked, that's where Trixie is right now.
Fine. Teleport her to Canterlot, and then she'll be Celestia's problem and not ours.
Stop talking about her like she's not in the room, Spike. And I'm not going to cheat. And personally, I think there's a part of me that's wondering if it understands Trixie better than others do. You're right, Spike. She's a liar, a blowhard, an arrogant drama queen, and an egoist who enjoys humiliating others but can't stand it when it's done to her. And that is precisely why I'm going to help her. Spike didn't really have much to say after that. So, for the next couple of days, Spike and Owlowishes took care of Trixie, who stayed quiet as a mouse. I researched everything I could about the memory spell I used to cure my friends, what information Celestia was willing to share about Discord, and I borrowed a lot of psychology books from various sources after I had exhausted the ones in my library. I knew there was no way in Pony Hell that I could keep Trixie a secret, and I had no intention of trying to hide her if someone asked, but I didn't volunteer the information either. My friends were all happy to see me back, and there was no outstanding disasters in Ponyville during my short absence. I explained the pony I was helping was staying at my place. I repeat, I told the others that the pony I was helping was staying at my place. I am the world's stupidest brainiac pony. Applejack, who'd come with Rarity, just looked on sadly.
My word, what happened to her? She's the one who Discord hurt. And she's been like this since Discord did the same to us? Yup. Twilight, why haven't you cast that memory spell yet?
I've tried. Something keeps pushing me out before it can take effect. I can't figure out what. Maybe it's something Discord left behind as a going away present.
Poor dear. Well, Trixie, I can't say that you don't look better without that gaudy getup, dear. But this old grayed-out paleness look just isn't you, or any pony for that matter.
AJ, though, had gotten on her haunches, staring Trixie in the eyes. I was left in amazement. Trixie actually began to shrink away from her, and were her eyes misting up? Almost any reaction was a good reaction. Trixie then began to turn her head away from Applejack. But AJ wouldn't let her, and held one hoof against Trixie's face. Scrunching her eyes closed, Trixie fell backwards onto the bed. AJ stood up and looked at me.
Twilight, I ain't know nothing about unicorn magic, and I know even less about fancy-smancy psychology, but I think what's been throwing you is Trixie. Now hold your horses. I mean, a part of Trixie. A Trixie that doesn't want to come out and leave the nice cozy darkness where she doesn't have to face the truth. And how, pray tell, do you extrapolate all that from simply looking at her? Because she was scared to death to look at me.
Applejack, there could be a million other explanations for that.
Except this here is one that happens to be true. I saw inside her, Twilight. No, I ain't gonna tell you how. I barely get it myself. It ain't exactly X-ray vision or whatnot, but I swear on Great-Grandpappy's grave that the Trixie that is Trixie is hiding, scared, in there somewhere. Discord's disease has screwed her up bad.
It occurred to me that if Celestia found out about what I was doing, there was a chance she would deeply disapprove. Perhaps to remind me how part of friendship was admitting when you needed help. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling this was my responsibility. Like there was something vital about Trixie I was missing. And if I turned her over to the professionals, I would never find out what that thing was. And something very important would be lost for good.
Hey, Twilight!
Spike ran into the room.
You won't believe, Rarity, look, I'm sorry, it wasn't my idea to have Trixie here, but Twilight insisted.
It's perfectly fine, Spike. So what has happened?
Pinkie Pie's finally awake!
A wave of relief rushed through us all. It felt so good. That was one less problem to worry about, and one more friend we could count on to be there. Spike, you look after Trixie. Guys, want to join me in a visit to Sugar Cube Corner?
You have to ask, Sugar Cube.
Now hold on, Pinkie's my teammate too, and...
I promise I'll be back as soon as I can. As I left, I found myself wondering whether I had just said that to Spike or Trixie.